Hi friends, Amy here with Amy's Wares, and I'm going to show you a couple new stencils from the March release at A Colorful Life Designs. Here we have the cathedral window and the cross window, and these are two of the many new release items in the March 2022 release, so be sure to check it out. And these are 3x6 stencils. I was showing you some card bases, or rather card panels, of A2 size 110-pound cardstock, and I have this rando little book of pattern paper that was gifted to me. So I will link whatever products I can in the video description box below, but I wanted to show you kind of a different way to use your stencils, maybe than the traditional ink blending. So I used these paper rose stitched rectangle dies and took them to my die cutter and cut out these finished panels, and this is the first card that I'm going to make for you today. So I have this embossing tool from the Rabbit Hole Designs. Now this is like an anti-static tool, so it helps you keep your embossing powder where you want it and not where you don't. So I'm just kind of conditioning the paper with this powder from the embossing tool, and then I'm going to use this cathedral window directly on this pattern paper. So this is maybe a fun idea, not only as a different way to use your stencil, but also to maybe use up some of that pattern paper that you have in your crafty stash that's often neglected. I know mine is. So basically I'm holding the stencil and the paper down with my Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station tool, and I do have a piece of post-it tape just to kind of mask off the edge, but I'm going right at it with my Versamark ink pad. Now this is a sticky clear embossing ink, and I'm just kind of squishing that directly through the stencil right onto this pattern paper. And because I use that embossing powder tool, it's going to stick only where I wanted it. And then I'm going to use this gilded embossing powder. It's a beautiful gold, and it's from Brutus Monroe. So I just sprinkle that over onto this pattern paper, and you can perfectly see the design of that gorgeous new stencil. So I'm thinking, you know, Easter cards with this. That's kind of the theme of some of the stencils in this release. And I wanted it to be a little, I didn't want it to be all springy, bright colors. So, you know, I certainly have some examples of those, but this I really wanted that striking gold embossing powder to stick out. So that's why I picked kind of darker, maybe non-traditional pattern papers, because I really wanted the gold to just shine on this background. So here I'm using my heat tool. It's my Wow embossing heat tool. It does have two different heat settings, and I'll link that in the video description box below, but I got it for Christmas and I'm really enjoying it, and I love having the two different heat levels, so that's a nice feature. But I melted up that embossing powder, and look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? So here's the next card. I'm going to do the same exact thing. You can see it's got that nice die cut edge, so it's got that stitched finished edge on there, and it is the same size as an A2 size card, so it doesn't cut it down smaller, so there won't be a white border, but it will have that nice finished edge to it. So I'm going to do the same thing here, hold it down with the magnets, mask it off with the post-it tape, and I did condition it again a little bit with that embossing tool just to make sure. And then I'm going to squish that Versamark ink pad directly down, just really kind of wiggling it in there while holding the stencil down, because I don't want it to shift, but I really want to make sure that I'm getting good coverage with this clear embossing ink. So I'm just going to remove the stencil carefully and the post-it tape, and then same thing, I have that scratch white paper, and I'm going to coat it with the gold embossing powder. Now this would be gorgeous in silver, maybe even white, honestly, but I just really wanted the gold classy look for this design here. So if you do get any little stray bits, use a little brush just to kind of brush off the edge. That wasn't the fault of the embossing tool, that was more the post-it tape, I think, maybe leaving a little bit of residual stickiness on there. So just brush off whatever excess powder there is that you don't want, and then watch the magic that is melted embossing powder. Isn't that so cool? I just love watching it. I oftentimes get frustrated working with heat embossing. It's not always my favorite, but I do always love the end result. I think I just get frustrated with it because I'm kind of impatient and tend to make a mess of it sometimes. So If you're slower and more deliberate with your movements and not as erratic as me, then you probably won't make the mess that I do and probably won't have an issue with it. But like I said, it turned out great, so I'm happy with it. And I used that Hero Arts stamp and die set and just embossed some more of the gold and the word Easter on some black cardstock, and then cut out blessings in black cardstock, and then just attached it to card bases, and there you go. So it's nice and flat, easy to ship, but has the wow factor from that shiny embossing powder, and maybe a little bit unexpected from that pattern paper. So I hope this gives you some inspiration to maybe think outside of the box and use your stencils and pattern paper in different ways. And if you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing. I appreciate you watching. Check you next time. Bye.